every time I watch a movie, I'm always fascinated to explore the application of the topics of social engagement and attachment development and the needs of attachment systems and how that affects the stories unfolding. Okay, and so I'm going to use Frozen, the movie Frozen, as an example here. And I just want to explore this lens of social engagement, attachment needs, and how it affects body-mind navigation and regulation to impact personal experience from the inside out, but through the lens of the Frozen movie and the characters, the main characters in Frozen, okay? So if you are a Frozen fan, stick around. And if you're not, you can still stick around if you want to. But we can talk about the neuroscience of psychology and all these, serious stuff all day, every day. But it's fun to also bring in the lighthearted aspect of it. And use a fun, simple animated movie to shed light on the topic in a new way. Okay, so the entire premise of the movie is social engagement and disrupted childhood attachment development. That's the foundation of the whole movie. That's literally the foundation of the whole movie. Okay, and so there's Anna and Elsa, who are sisters, right? And then there's the two gentlemen. Well, one's not so gentle. The two men, Kristoff and Hans. Those are the four characters we'll be discussing. Okay, so firstly, there's Elsa and Anna. And growing up, they socially engaged with each other, and they had really strong attachments with each other and really healthy attachments in the family with the parents and with each other. They were really strong, healthy attachments. They were socially engaging with each other, and there was a felt sense of being seen and loved and celebrated and supported and connected and vulnerable and close, with collaboration and community and safety and security, protection, provision, respect, embrace, opportunity, and space to just be who they were. That was the very, very beginning. But then that quickly changed. And suddenly, the attachment started to crumble, and there was social disengagement. Okay, and so then there's Elsa and Anna, and they're no longer socially engaging, and the attachment bond between them was disrupted, and it was still there, but in a not healthy way, because they were not socially engaging with each other. Elsa had a program in her body-mind of social disengagement, an avoidance pattern in her unconscious procedural memories. And it had to do with the well-being of attachment needs. If I socially engage, then attachment needs are not met. So I am not safe to socially engage. Okay, and then there was disrupted attachment development with Elsa and her parents. Okay, and that was subtle because her parents meant well. Okay, right? Like Elsa and Anna's parents, they meant well. They were doing the best they knew how to. But it was still disrupted attachment development. They weren't fulfilling the attachment needs of their children. Because in the attachment needs of their children, Anna needed to have a friendship with Elsa and needed the opportunity to socially engage with other people, which she didn't have. She was hanging out in those empty hallways, singing these songs all by herself. She didn't have the chance to socially engage with other people, right? And then, I love you. And then the parents weren't fulfilling attachment needs for Elsa, right? Okay. And so Elsa had this need to feel safe and supported and loved and appreciated and respected and embraced. And she didn't get that from her parents because her parents were living in fear instead of love. And so instead of providing the unconditional love that Elsa needed, they taught her how to be afraid and how to socially disengage. Okay, so There's so many things that go into this. I could talk about this for a million years. But then, okay, basically, Elsa developed an implicit health challenge because of this disrupted attachment development. And she started to experience thought forms and emotions and chronic patterns of movement, action patterns in her body, where she retracted and avoided social engagement, and she had thoughts that were unpleasant to experience, and she had emotions that were strong and overpowering and unpleasant to experience. And she didn't know how to manage them. She didn't know how to not be controlled by these chronic patterns of thoughts, emotions, and action patterns, or the way her body was instinctively responding. And you notice this in various styles of stress responses that become activated. Okay? When Anna asked Elsa for permission to marry this random dude that she just met, which is another social engagement attachment development thing that I'm going to talk about, Elsa had this response of a fight stress response. She starts yelling at her. And then she has a flight stress response, and she starts running from her. And both of those are disruption of navigation and regulation in the body-mind because of a disruption of attachment development. Elsa never had the chance to socially engage in a space where there was the fulfillment of attachment needs ever since that incident when they were kids that Anna doesn't even know about, right? And then Elsa develops these stress responses. And so when she's in an experience of social engagement for the first time in a really long time, she gets activated and there's a fight stress response and she starts yelling at Anna, no! And then a flight stress response and she starts physically running away from her. And those are the activation of social disengagement roles within the neurobiological social engagement system. And so when there's activation of social engagement roles, there's emotional intimacy. And you see that when they're little kids and they're laughing and they're playing. And there's physical intimacy when you're hugging, right? There's emotional and physical well-being, okay? And there's mutual support and cooperation and rest and restitution. You can relax. And parent-child bonding, where you have these healthy relationships within attachment development, okay? So then there's all these roles of social engagement. But then there are roles in the body-mind that have navigational priorities of social disengagement. And we see that as Elsa starts to have a fight and flight stress response, okay? But that didn't happen for a minute. For a minute, she was casually joking around, Elsa and Anna, and in the very beginning scene, by the way. In the very, beginning scenes of the very first movie of Frozen. They're in that ballroom, and for a minute, they're joking, and they're laughing, and they're hugging, and they're complimenting each other, and their body-minds are providing navigation from a space of attachment, well-being, and social engagement. And then, boom, it flips, and at the end of the day, at that ballroom, Elsa has a fight and then a flight stress response. Social disengagement because of this foundation of disrupted attachment development. Okay, and then it disrupts navigation and regulation, and then that begins the entire movie of calamity and adventure. Okay, and so then we have Anna. Okay, she did not get to socially engage when she really wanted to. Elsa was afraid of socially engaging because she was taught to be afraid of socially engaging. She was taught that if she socially engaged, then she would hurt other people, and then that would be her fault because she couldn't manage it. She was taught to be afraid of her own natural state of being. She was taught to be afraid of her own potential. She was taught to be afraid of her own natural gifts instead of being loved and nurtured and taught how to use them effectively. Okay? And then there's Anna, who didn't have any mystical powers, but she was just like a kid and she wanted to socially engage and she was not given that opportunity. Okay, but she actually didn't know why. The whole time she had no idea why she wasn't interacting with other people. Okay, so then she grows up And she's at this ballroom and she meets a total stranger, Hans, who, as it turns out, and not to spoil the movie in case, like, for some reason you haven't seen it and you don't want me to spoil it, don't listen to this part, but Frozen movie 1, Hans is, like, this really bad dude who's, like, out to, like, overthrow the kingdom and, like, make himself king, and, like, is like, willing to, like, shed blood and, like, kill people to get there and, like, manipulate and work, just be just the dark side of things, right? Okay? And so Anna meets this dude who she doesn't know anything about, Hans, and because there is finally a source of social engagement that fulfills attachment needs, she completely gives all her power to this dude. And it's just like, yes! Finally, I get to socially engage and have my attachment needs met. I'm yours. Let's just get married today. Okay? And so that is also a pretty unhealthy thing. It's like the opposite spectrum. It's like, yes, I'm so desperate to socially engage. I'm so desperate to have my attachment needs fulfilled that I don't even care where the source is from. Okay, totally polar opposite, where else is like, I will not socially engage, and I refuse to have my attachment needs fulfilled. I refuse to let you love me. I refuse to be connected. I refuse to be respected for who I am. I am going to just socially disengage completely, and that's going to be good for me. I don't want my attachment needs fulfilled. And then Anna's over here like, all I need is social engagement and attachment fulfillment, and I don't even care where it comes from. And then she gets herself in kind of a dangerous situation because she's like engaged to someone who's like gonna kill her just to be king or something. I don't know, it's weird. Okay. Then we have Kristoff. Oh, and Hans, again, the whole reason he turned out to be like the bad guy, right, is disrupted attachment needs because of social engagement. He had all of these other older brothers, and so he was not given the attention that he needed. And the social engagement was like these other brothers not respecting him, not loving him unconditionally, not supporting him, not allowing him to feel a felt space of opportunity to thrive for being who he was. And it was these experiences of social engagement that did not fulfill attachment needs that led to Hans being the bad guy. Okay? It's so fun to have, like, examples of, like, the stuff that I spend tens of thousands of hours studying and stuff, and, like, you know, honing in these concepts in, like, a fun Disney movie, right? Okay, and so then there's Kristoff, okay? And again, social engagement and attachment development affected everything about who he is and his role in the movie and his experience of himself in his life, okay? So he didn't have a family. He was like this little kid around all these like brute men who I guess like weren't his family or something. He mentioned he somewhat mentioned that, and then he, like, you know, was adopted into this family of trolls, right? Okay, but there's like this little kid, and he's being taught by these really big men to like pick ice, you know, like heavy hard labor. He wasn't being nurtured. He wasn't being nourished. He wasn't being held. He wasn't receiving this felt sense of being seen and loved and treasured and supported and connected and embraced and respected and protected and provided for by a caregiver or other adult figures as a young child. And so the attachment development was disrupted. And so he ran off. And he just, like, ditched those dudes completely, right? like all the people that at the beginning of the movie, the first Frozen movie that Kristoff was a kid with, like, he just, like, left them, right? They didn't have strong attachments, and so the social engagement wasn't enough to stick around for. But, like, he learned how to pick ice, and that was still his career or whatever. But he went and he basically got adopted into this troll family where he was like fascinated by this scene where there was Elsa and Anna as little kids, but I don't know if he like connected the dots or not. That was unclear. But okay, so there's Kristoff, and we see as we meet him as a grown gentleman before he like softens and gets all cute and stuff, right? He's really gruff and really distant and disconnected and doesn't show a whole lot of respect, right? He's just like very flippant of stuff. And that gets him like, you know, literally like thrown out of a store where he's trying to buy carrots for his reindeer and stuff, right? And so he has this issue with social engagement because of disrupted attachment development also, but in like, again, kind of a different way from the other characters. And so there's Kristoff, and he didn't receive that felt sense of attachment fulfillment from people, but he did receive it from trolls and a reindeer. And so he has attachments with trolls and a reindeer because that's the source of his attachment need fulfillment. And he's extremely unattached to humans. He has no interest in attachments with humans. He's like, humans or whatever, like, I don't know about humans, you know, but like reindeer and trolls, right? Because those are the sources of his attachment need fulfillment, okay? And then we see him as he's, you know, interacting with people. He's pretty distant and, you know, like he kind of goes with it, but he's not like this super warm, open, friendly sort of a dude, okay? But then Hans is, but then all of that, he was faking it, right? Okay? And so Kristoff, again, he had this disrupted attachment development and it affected the way that he socially engaged. And so if we were to take all of this and shapeshift it and make Frozen 1 a completely different movie. It was a good movie. But let's say we rewrote it and we said, okay, everyone's going to have thriving attachment needs, thriving attachment systems, thriving experiences of social engagement. Who would each of those 4 characters have grown up to be if the childhood self of who they were had always known attachment well-being, had always known unconditional love? Okay, Elsa would have learned how to use her powers from a space of love and joy and not from a space of fear and disempowerment. And then she would have socially engaged with her sister, with her family, with other people. The gates of the castle palace thing would have stayed open. They wouldn't have shut down. Anna would have had this amazing relationship with her sister and had all these opportunities to socially engage with other people because the castle doors would have stayed open. And then Hans wouldn't have felt so neglected and unappreciated and disconnected and cast out and disrespected by his family that he would go try to overthrow some other kingdom. He would have found his place and felt supported by his family. Even if he didn't become king, he would have still had an opportunity to thrive in a space that made him feel the well-being of his attachments and positive experiences of social engagement, where he was in the flow of it rather than manipulating it to try and get his attachment needs met in really unhealthy ways. And Kristoff would have been nourished by humans and then would have had positive relationships with human all throughout his life instead of being very disconnected for a long time and then falling in love in a very weird way. Like, oh, this chick that I love, she was engaged to a dude that then tried to kill her, but then I was about to express that I do actually really care for her, but then she turned into ice. But then my love was going to save her, but then it was actually her sister's love that saved her, so that was awkward. Right? Okay, so instead of like waiting to fall in love in this really weird way, he could have had like these really healthy, strong relationships with humans all throughout his life. And then if he met someone like Anna, then there wouldn't have been all these walls in the beginning. Okay? And so we can look at who would the characters have grown up to be? How would the story of their lives have been different if the childhood self of who they were had always known unconditional love and attachment well-being through experiences of social engagement? And it's just like the most beautiful thing, right? I really love that first scene of Frozen 1. And again, this is just one example. I can do this with like any movie. It's hard not to watch a movie and be like, oh my God, social engagement and attachment development is obviously like the theme of my purpose, because I can't not notice it everywhere. But in that beginning scene where Elsa and Anna are playing and she's using her magical powers to have fun, and they're socially engaging and operating from a space of love and joy and expansion and connection and support and safety and trust and vulnerability. It's just like really beautiful, So just wanting to share this, bring these concepts and topics that I share about to a new perspective that might just be more personally relatable. Attachment development and attachment well-being and social engagement play such a strong role in all of our lives, and they affect how trillions of networks in our body minds are navigating and regulating our existence from the inside out. And when we can understand these hidden realities and open up doors for self-understanding, we can heal any disruptions of that data, any disruptions of navigation or regulation, which can manifest in hundreds and thousands of different health challenges. And then from that baseline of well-being, we can then expand so that the navigation and regulation of our body minds in relation with attachment well-being can actually support the essence of who we are as a beautiful, sacred soul. Because a lot of times, even if there aren't disruptions to the point of like a health challenge, like a mental health diagnosis, for example, or a chronic pattern of thinking, feeling, moving, behaving, responding, etc., that disrupts well-being in everyday life, even if it doesn't get there, a lot of times our baseline of well-being is still limiting and does not allow us to know the fullness of all that we are. Because throughout our lives, we've encountered social engagement in relation with attachment needs. And when those needs are met conditionally, or those needs are not fully met all of the time, or those needs are met by alternate sources in opposing or contradictory ways, then it can cause parts of the self to not be as connected with all of the self. And it can cause regions of the body-mind to not be as integrated as they otherwise would have been. And it can cause disruption in the way brain hemispheres connect and cranial nerves self-regulate. When we actually expand navigation integration, we actually witness cranial nerves, which affect facial muscles among other things, actually change the way that they naturally engage. It affects vocal vibration and the way that we experience our own voice when we speak, when we sing, when we create any type of sound in our voice. And it can disrupt the way that data is stored. It can disrupt memory processing and accessibility. It can disrupt the instinctive styles that we maneuver through life. It can disrupt circadian rhythms. It can disrupt sensory processing. It can disrupt the way that we connect with and know our own selves. It can disrupt mind-body-spirit connection. And so there's all these experiences in our lives that are being processed in relation with the needs of attachment systems at the foundation of the body-mind. And if any of those needs are, again, not fully met all of the time, they're met conditionally, which means, yes, you'll feel seen and loved if you do these things. Yes, you'll be supported if you do these things. Yes, you'll be, protected and provided for if you act like this sort of a person, okay? Or attachment needs are met, but they're fulfilled from different sources in opposing, alternate, or contradictory ways. This group of people or these situations help you feel seen and loved when you're this type of person. These situations, groups of people, experiences make you feel safe and supported when you act and feel and think and behave in this sort of a way, okay? Anything like that, or even slightly along any of those lines, can cause some really severe disruptions that can manifest in hundreds and thousands of different ways. Not just in implicit health challenges, but just in other ways that reduce the fullness of all that we are, is the best way to describe it. It just reduces the fullness of the embodiment, the expression, the expansion, and the experience of our truest, freest, most loving selves. And instead of looking at the experiences of social engagement, or even experiences in general that disrupted the well-being of attachment needs, instead of looking at the data in the body-mind that's projecting navigation and regulation in a way that doesn't fully support us, we can actually just fulfill attachment needs here and now, practice social self-engagement, and create new patterns of navigation and new protocols of regulation in the body-mind, so that the self of pure consciousness and divine essence and our truest soul can have this body-mind structures to fully support its existence from the inside out. And so it's not just about resolving implicit health challenges or disruptions in navigation or regulation. It's about moving beyond that and expanding into a greater fullness and wholeness and homeness of our own inner beings, and a greater expansion of the totality of the truest essence of our most authentic selves. And a lot of times we don't actually know what that looks like, because the navigation and regulation of the body-mind in relation with attachment needs has never known unconditional love, has never experienced loving liberation. And so you can't actually know the fullness of all that you could be or all that you already secretly are until the body-mind has the structures within its energy to support that. And so practicing social self-engagement, or any style of nurturing and nourishing attachment needs, and in that process also upgrading, up-leveling, expanding, improving these navigational patterns and regulatory protocols and the unconscious memories that are constantly affecting them. And they've been stored from all our lives, but we have the power to change all of them right here, right now, no matter what. Once we start to shapeshift that, the energies of the body-mind actually have the capacity to support more parts of the self. And then the soul, the true essence of the self, gets to kind of expand. And that feeling is a lot like Elsa in Frozen 1, when she ran off from the castle towards the beginning of the movie, and she made that magical ice castle, and she was singing the infamous song, Let It Go. And she's just like, this is me. I'm free. Like, I don't care. I don't care if I live alone the rest of my life. I'm free to be me. I don't care. I don't care. They can have their lives. They can have their thing. I'm here, and I'm finally free to be who I am. I'm finally free to embody and express all that I am. Bro, check out my magical powers. And I just built like my own like magical like ice castle, and I'm just going to live here now. I don't know where she was getting her snacks from. She probably had a lot of snow cones. Okay, and so we see it. We see that fullest expression. We see the fullest expression. But that can't happen until there's a style of fulfilling attachment needs. And so Elsa was able to feel her attachment needs when she was just socially engaging with herself. Because obviously she was, because she was singing. Who else would she be singing to if not singing to herself? Okay? Think about that. Elsa was socially engaging with herself and fulfilling her own attachment needs. And that's why she's singing this song, and she's finally all free, and she's like, Elsa, look at me, Elsa, because she's socially engaging with herself, and she's going and she's making this magical ice castle, right? Okay? And so the body-mind can finally know loving liberation, and in that process the self can finally know loving liberation, because the body, mind, and the self are not the same thing at all. The body, mind are the structures in brain body wiring that carry information from every nanosecond of our lives, that's projecting translations of reality. And the essence of the self is this like mystical, magical essence that can be seen through the colored region of your eyes that transcends the human experience and is like beyond space and time. Okay, just kind of to summarize. Okay, but the essence of the self and the body-mind are not the same thing. But when the body-mind knows loving liberation by having its attachment needs fulfilled and improvement of the navigation and regulation that are the two main jobs of its existence, then it can support the self, who can then know the fullness of all that it is, because it's finally living inside of a body-mind that has the energetic structures to support it. Okay, so if you're a Frozen fan, then thanks for sticking around. And if you're not a Frozen fan, then thanks for sticking around anyway. But it's just like a really beautiful, powerful way to bring these concepts of everything I've been talking about and everything I share through my work and my videos here and everything in a way that is fun. So maybe go check out the movie and watch it and explore how social engagement and attachment well-being is at the core of that movie, and really the core of most movies. And in that process, you can hang out and socially engage with yourself while fulfilling attachment needs and spending time with you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. Please feel free to check out any of my other creations. I don't know. I think this is the part where most people are like, support the channel and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you never miss another awesome video. I normally don't say that on my videos, but if you're inspired, feel free to do that. I do appreciate the support. But feel free to check out any of my work, and if you want to talk about this stuff, I've got some cool Sacred Soul sessions. And if you don't want to talk about this stuff, but you want to apply it anyway, I've got some self-guided journeys through content creations as well. There's also a fun merchandise store. But anyway, super fun topic. Comment below, what's your favorite aspect of what we just learned about in relation with the Frozen movie? And does it make you see the Frozen characters in a different way? Does it make you kind of look at that movie in a different way? Are you like, oh yeah, that's so obvious, I had already thought of all of that? Either way, it's fine. It's fun to talk about it. But feel free to share in the comments, what is one thing that you resonate with that I shared? What is one thing that maybe you learned that you hadn't noticed before, even if it's just like the character development of Frozen? And if you feel inspired, what's one aspect of these concepts, and you don't have to comment below if this is too personal, but you can always journal about it or have a conversation with yourself in a mirror, which is what I've been doing this whole entire time, because all I do with my life is marathon because it completes me. But there's a bigger story to that. So if you don't know about me and my marathons, then don't draw conclusions based on that comment alone. But feel free to ask yourself, what's an aspect of these topics that might actually be applicable in my own personal life that maybe I hadn't thought about before? Is there some aspect of my own attachment development that might be affecting me in ways I'm not aware of? And if so, how can I open doors to deeper awareness to actually create some healing and nourishment and maybe some loving liberation? And maybe that's original attachment development from childhood. Maybe that's general attachment well-being in relation with social engagement in general. Maybe it's specific attachment relational attributes, such as romance, and maybe whatever that might look like. How's the romance with yourself, though? Because you can't really have any strong external relationships if you don't first have that relationship with yourself. And so how are you romancing yourself? How are you befriending yourself? How are you nurturing your inner child? It's all these different roles, right? The inner life partner is the romantic partner of your own inner self. The inner best friend is that just companionship of general. And then that inner child is that parent-child bonding, but you're playing those roles for yourself. How are attachment needs and how are they affecting your everyday experience of yourself in your life? And is there space for some improvement? Is there space for loving liberation? Is there an opportunity to maybe shapeshift some of these structures to support you more effectively moving forward? And what does that look like? Or what could that look like? Or what's one little thing you can do every day to kind of just nurture that? So I just invite you to explore this. If you feel inspired, you can comment below. And please feel free to share this. If you know anyone who enjoys the movie Frozen and might be interested in opening to these topics that are very important and affect all of us every day, whether we realize it or not, please feel free to share it and invite others to join our magical party here on this video channel. I really appreciate sharing and these little insights, especially something that's as nonchalantly applicable like the Frozen movie. I think could really benefit,
could really benefit some beautiful beings out there. So please feel free to share it if that inspires you. Comment if that inspires you. And yeah. I've been talking to myself in mirrors this whole time, and I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to go talk to myself in mirrors this whole time. I'm having a slumber party with my inner life partner and my inner child. So we're going to go have a slumber party. Okay. That's all. Bye!